Hello friends, SimPilot here. Welcome back to another Microsoft Flight Simulator tutorial. Today we are going to take a look at the G3000 unit in the Beechcraft King Air 350. I think we can still call this a tutorial, but we will be more focusing on the differences between the G3000 in the TBM 930 versus the one in King Air 350. Unfortunately, there are some things that are missing in this G3000 unit, and we will discuss what those are. But just to make this a little bit more interesting tutorial, we are going to take a look at the startup procedure of the King Air 350. This is going to be a brief startup procedure. I'm not going to go through any checklists or anything like that, but just wanted to share some startup information on what buttons are doing what and the general cockpit layout, if you will. Without further ado, let's jump into the cockpit and take a look at how this aircraft looks like in the inside. So it has a beautiful cockpit. I have to admit, I love King Air 350. I wish this aircraft was much more complete than what it is today, and hopefully the patch that's coming around soon will fix some of the issues that I will talk about here in a second after we start this aircraft. So the startup procedure for King Air is pretty straightforward. The first thing you need to do is turn on the battery. As you see, this has some warning messages or audio messages for you, and after starting the turning on the battery, not starting, you turn on the nav light to let the ground crew know that your aircraft has power now. And I think it's a good idea to turn the beacon on because we are getting ready to start the engines. So the engine start process is pretty simple because you don't need to mess with the fuel tanks that are displayed here. The fuel is already on, so you don't need to do anything in there. You just come down here. There is an ignition and engine start. So you flick the left engine starter to on and watch the propeller. When it starts turning, as it gains rotation speed, what you need to do is come back to the other side. Here in a second, when it starts spinning more, move this throttle RPM control to just about 15%, and then you'll see the engine started spinning. And what you see here is the ITT is rising. Oops, wrong button. We'll come to these settings. I just messed it up. The ITT will rise, and then the prop speed will rise, and then after that you can turn the ignition off, because you shouldn't be leaving the ignition on all times after the engine starts. So you turn it off, but the engine keeps running, and then you turn on the left generator or left alternator to provide some electricity so that you don't drain the batteries, and then do the same thing for the second engine, which I think we can have a better view for. So it starts spinning as soon as you see fuel flow here, which it will display here in a second right there. Yeah, as you see, it started fuel flow, so then you move the RPM control to just about 14 to 15%, and then the engine will start with no problems. So that's how you start the engines. And then now we can turn off the starter and turn on the left alternator, and then lastly we can turn on the avionics. So now everything is powered on. We have a good chance to take a look at what this aircraft has to offer. The warning is saying that your pitot heat is turned off, but we are in Phoenix, Arizona, so I don't think we are going to need pitot heat. Anyway, I'm not expecting to see ice, and we are not going to take off, so it's fine if we leave it like that. Okay, let's just get a little bit closer and see what this aircraft has to offer. So this is the PFD, and you have another one over there for the co-pilot. And unfortunately this is missing some information. Remember the G3000 in the TBM where it has some clickable buttons down here? You don't get those with this unit. And due to that, it is missing some functionality, because even this one has a beautiful flight management computer down here, nothing is modeled. And the other thing I wasn't happy about was, let me just zoom into there to see better. This knob here is used to set your barometric pressure for the PFD or for the G3000 unit, and it's in-up, so you cannot set your barometric pressure in this aircraft by using a knob. I mean, you can always set it by hitting the B key, and as soon as I do that, take a look at how the pressure changes. So 2.9.905. There is one over here where you can change the barometric pressure setting, but this is your standby altimeter, so this is not going to help you with your flight instruments, because all your instruments are going to take this barometric pressure into account when it's displaying the altitude and all that stuff. So unfortunately it's not modeled. And this aircraft has a beautiful FMC flight management computer. It is also not modeled. There are some buttons here for PFD, MFD. There is a menu button which is operational, but it doesn't do anything. When I click to it, all it does is just opens a menu on both screens, which you can open without that button in place. You can do it differently by just touching the screen. These are kind of things that I didn't like about the G3000 in this one. As you see, it's not complete, that's what I'm trying to say, but you still get some stuff. So let's just start from the top and go from left to right to see what we have. We have the transponder setting. This is where you set your squawk code that's given by the ATC when you ask for IFR clearance. So you basically punch it in and then hit enter, and then it will enter it to here. You can also, let's just type in a different number, and as you see, this is your ident that you can turn on, and over here you can keep it at standby. You can turn it on and you can set it to altitude reporting mode. And I think this is down for VFR, and the VFR code in the United States is 1200, where I think in Europe it is 7000. So that's two options. Over here, let me get back. You have your waypoint information, which will display the name of the waypoint, your bearing to that waypoint, the distance in nautical miles, estimated time en route, your ground speed, and your track, which is your course. And you have all the options where you can set your COM radios, COM1 and COM2, and they are all clickable because this is a touch screen panel. You click and then switch or turn on and off your COM radios, and you also have access to turning on your nav radios, and you can do them here too. These buttons are working even if the altimeter or barometric pressure setting is not modeled, and you can turn off the COM frequencies from here too. So this is just a touch screen way of doing it. This how to set up your frequency is down from here. You just click the standby and type the frequency you want to switch. Let's say 120.800, and then this will transfer it to the active frequency from standby. Okay, so that's the COM, and clicking this will switch back and forth between standby and active. So that's the options so far. The split button, before I get there is another one that I want to show you. So if you click to the HSI, horizontal status indicator, it will open a menu. This is where you select your CDI source, which is your coarse deviation indicator. You can set it to nav radio 1, which is VOR1, nav radio 2, which is VOR2, or your FMS, which is your GPS source. This one has the bearings pointers, like if you want to track a VOR station and distance to it, you can set it to here, and you can set the nav2 to here, so you get two of those. Unfortunately, you don't get any DME information. If you remember from G1000, there was a big box that was placed over here and over here that tells you the distance from a certain DME station. You don't get this with this model, or at least it's not modeled as far as I can tell. You still get a timer. You can start, stop, reset, and I don't know if there is a way to set the minutes and hours. I wasn't able to do anything, but we'll see if there is any when we split the window. And to get rid of this half screen, you click on the HSI and it goes away. So when you hit that split button, it brings up a different menu, which is the map that you have over here, which is also clickable, and you can click and pan around by just dragging the screen like you would normally on a touch screen. We will come back to this screen here in a second. So this splits the screen and gives you the options that we have seen in the TBM 930 G3000 unit. This is your flight plan page, which you can see the map, which is going to take you basically to the previous screen. You can enter a flight plan, which we will here in a second. If you click that, you go one back, and you have your procedures like departure, arrival, and approach, and you can activate the approach from here. And you have your direct to, which lets you to go to a direct waypoint by just selecting it through here. And you'll have your nearest information, like your nearest airports. And if you go back by just clicking to the name, your nearest VOR stations. And I believe you can click this and tune it. No, you can't. You can also already just insert it to your flight plan, but by clicking, I don't think it is setting it to the nav frequency, but we will see that here in a second. Click back, your nearest NDB stations, and then finally your nearest waypoint intersections, like GPS waypoint intersections that you can see over here. And unfortunately, because the scroll wheel is used for zoom in, zoom out, it is also used to scroll this page, and it just does both. Kind of weird, and I don't like it. What I like to do is just grab this white hand horizontal line here, or vertical line, not horizontal, I'm sorry, and drag it up and down to move through the list. Okay, so you can go back to main menu, and then you have your COM frequency that you can also change from here. If you don't want to do it from this standby button, you can just type it in and then transfer. It will switch it to whatever you type it in this box. Your COM2 frequency you can also change from here, like we did with the COM1. Your nav1 frequency, now you can change it here, and we can also take a look for a nearest VOR station. I think this one is good enough, 115.6, and you can go back and set that to your nav1, 115.6, transfer, and as you see now it's picking up the signal and showing you the distance over here on your bearing that you set. And this will also work for nav2 if you do it from there. So you can go back there, and nav2 frequency you can also set it from here. If we set the same thing, you will see that showing the same information on the right side of the HSI. And I think from here that's pretty much it for this split screen. To go back to full mode, you just press that. Nothing happens because you need to click the map and then press full, which I find kind of odd to do when you just want to switch from split screen to full screen. Let's move to the next as the autopilot functions. These are pretty much very close and same in terms of what is here when you look and remember the TBM 930. This is the flight director, which turns on your flight director, which is those pink lines on your vertical status indicator. Your V-speed mode, your VNav, which is not working at the moment. Flight level change, I believe you will remember this, and this is how you adjust the speed. When you press flight level change, the speed displayed here, and then you can rotate this to set your desired speed of climb. Your nav mode, whether you will be tracking a GPS source or nav, VOR radio, whatever you will be tracking on your CDI. Your heading hold mode, and this is where you adjust the heading, and pressing onto the button will synchronize it to your current heading. If you haven't seen it down there, pressing it will just bring it to what your heading was or is. Approach mode is engaging or activating the approach mode. Altitude hold is self-explanatory, that holds the current altitude, and this is your altitude selection knob where you set your desired altitude. It's weird that you can set it to negative values. I don't know who wants to use the aircraft as a submarine, but that's possible, I guess. The yaw damper is same as the one on the TBM. This will prevent your aircraft bouncing around when you are up in the air and using the autopilot. And in real life, you would never turn yaw damper on while you're on the ground. You have to take off, and then you have to be, I don't know, at least a couple 100 feet above the ground to turn this on. They say it might be quite dangerous to turn it on the ground. I don't know why. I have to do a research on that. The CPL button has no functions. It's not even clickable. Altitude setting, if you click on it, it will synchronize it to your current altitude. And this is the course buttons for co-pilot and pilot, or not co-pilot and pilot. This is for course 1 is for nav1 radio source, course 2 is for your nav2 radio source. If you remember how the course is used for VOR navigation, that's where you set your course up. And this is pretty much the autopilot. Down here you get another touch screen where you can drag the map. When you click this airplane symbol, it will center it to your aircraft. You can zoom in and out by pressing this plus and minus signs on the edge of the screen. You get your engine information. Because this is a dual engine aircraft, you get 2 of each instrument. This is your torque display, your ITT, internal turbine temperature, your prop RPM is displayed here, and then your oil pressure, your oil temperature, and then your fuel flow. And the warnings are displayed here too. You can also set your transponder from here, turn on the ident mode from here, but not from there. It's kind of weird too. Oh, okay, it works now. I don't know why it wasn't working before. Your waypoint, bearing, distance, estimated time and route, ground speed and track, which is your course, are also displayed on this screen as well. Your audios, which are your nav1, nav2, or COM1, COM2. And if I go back to here, so that's the same screen, and it's doubled here, just in case should you need it. COM frequencies work the same. Clicking on COM1 will switch from standby to the active, and then you can set up your standby frequency by just typing it in to the frequency window here. And if you enter, it will make it standby. If you use the transfer button, it will transfer it to the active frequency. And the split screen is going to give you the same options like your flight plan and whatnot. And unfortunately, I don't think there is any going back from this screen unless you click that map. and then go to the procedures page, and there you can see the same screen coming in front of you as well. So no differences there. And this screen over here is same as the pilot one. But let's talk about what this unit is missing. So let's start with this PFD unit here. This unit doesn't have any speed bugs that you can set, if you remember from TBM. This unit doesn't have any wind information that you can put on your screen for situational awareness. I haven't seen any ADF information that you can dial for an NDB station and track it if you want to. I have to do some research on that to see even if it's possible. You don't get the angle of attack. You get your, I believe this is your flaps. Let me try. No, that's your pitch trim. Let's see. Yeah, it's not changing anything, and you don't get any flap information like you have on the TBM as well. So that's also missing too. But the biggest complaint for me was not to have anything for the wind here, and as well as the speed bugs where I use for approach speed and rotate speed. Sometimes it is missing. You get your radio altitude displayed on here, so this is different than your barometric pressure because this is taking current ground level and showing that we are 5 feet above the ground here, not the mean sea level like your barometric pressure would. You get the outside air temperature, you get the local time, and your timer, you can track it here, but that timer cannot be adjusted, so it only counts forward. There is no way to make it count backwards from a set minute, so that's an also missing function, I believe. When I move to here, let's just do it like this. So you get your warnings, and let me just go back to full screen, but you don't get your weather information, so there is no weather radar that we can put on the screen. So I'm not sure if King Air 350 is missing a weather radar on the aircraft. If that's the case, then that's acceptable, and it wouldn't have it in real life as well. But I also keep thinking, why would someone make a plane with G3000 and don't bother with putting a weather radar on board? I don't know, but you don't get it. You don't get any of your weather information, like the weather on the map or your vertical weather or your horizontal weather radar. You don't get any of those in this unit. I'm still trying to remember what the TBM unit has as opposed to this one. But I think the weather is the biggest one that I was able to identify. I need to go back and maybe just do a comparison side by side. But even if I love the King Air 350, it is so unfortunate that you don't get all these functionality with this unit. But just to make this a little bit more like a tutorial than a comparison, let's just go in there. And if you remember our flight plan from I think it was episode 5.2, where we looked at the Phoenix to Las Vegas and the charts in one episode, all the departure, arrival and approach charts. So let's just try to put that flight plan together. I think I have it open on SkyVector here. So this is what I'm talking about. Our departure is Phoenix, destination is Las Vegas, and this is our waypoint information. This is our SID, standard instrument departure. This is our STAR, standard terminal arrival route, and then 2 waypoints in between. So let's try to put this in there. So active flight plan, origin is going to be Kilo Papa Hotel X-Ray, Phoenix Sky Harbor, and then we scroll down, add the destination as Kilo Lima Alpha Sierra Las Vegas McCarran International. and then as you see, now we have a direct line like you would normally. Now how we enter the waypoints. Before even entering the departure and arrival, I'd like to enter the waypoints, and our first one will be RRSTA, Romeo Romeo. And the good thing about the touch screen is you can just type by touching rather than rotating a knob in the GT1000 unit. So I like that a little bit better than this one. So we entered that one, it finds it, but as you see, there is no vertical profile at the moment. Let's add the second one, which is India Golf Mike. Enter, and as you see now, there is two. One is 6,588 miles away. This is obviously not the one we're looking for. 145 nautical miles sounds a little bit more reasonable to me, so let's just select that one. So those are all the waypoints that we need to put in there. So the next thing is to go back and select our procedures. Our departure will be Zapier 2. Oops. And now this is the annoying part. If you don't grab that from the correct place, it will just mess your screen up. So we are departing for, our departure is Zapier 2. Our transition, as you see, it automatically picked our transition point, which is the last waypoint of this departure. And you hit load, and if we go back to take a look at the flight plan, now we have additional waypoints that are entered here with, interestingly enough, some vertical profile, even if we don't have a working VNAV function in this aircraft, but now it has a vertical profile. Let's go and select our arrival, which is going to be Tyson 5, I believe. Yep, Tyson 5. So that is going to be this guy over here. Our transition is going to be IGM, and we can just throw a runway in there, but this arrival is for all runways in Las Vegas, so we load this one. And if you remember, these are the exact waypoints, but I'm not sure why these are doubled here. We have to see the flight plan to see if there is any weird things going on when we finish adding the waypoints and arrival and the approach as the last thing. So let's go back, pick our approach. Let's say we are approaching to 26 left, and our transition, well, it's giving us a transition which we already picked as IGM. So I don't know if we did the 26 left in the last tutorial for Sky Vector, but I'll just say okay, that's fine. And then we will load. We are not going to activate it yet, and it says VOR. I don't want VOR, we want ILS if it's possible. Yeah, it's right there. It's quite annoying to you see, it's just dragging it down for some stupid reason. I cannot, I'm just fighting with it right now to select the ILS approach, and it's not doing it. So this is what I don't like about this unit at all. Let's just do an RNAV approach instead and see how it looks like. Flight plan, procedures, approach. Let's see if it lets us to pick. See, it's not going up. This is like quite annoying, but I will leave it like this. And there you have it. That's your flight plan. And now we can go back to the map, close the screen, and take a look. It looks okay. I don't think any doubled waypoints, even if I saw them on that screen. This is pretty close to what we have seen in Sky Vector. So this is how you set your flight plan in the King Air 350. Just to make it look like a tutorial, I just wanted to put it in there. Other than that, I mean, we are pretty much ready to taxi. From this point, you come down here, and let's just talk about these buttons over here. You have seen the avionics master, battery master, and the alternator switches. the alternators are going to charge your batteries. If you leave them off, you might drain your battery and have some electrical problems up in the air. Ignition, we saw it, you just turn on the automatic starter to on, or if you use this button downwards, it will only start it as you keep it pressed down. If you let it go, it will stop starting the engine. Over here is your fuel information, and these are the transfer overrides, which I don't mess with usually, and this is the crossfeed valve where you would want to, crossfeed. Prop test is in-up, so it's not working. Actuators are not working. Anti-ice is luckily working, so you can turn them on if you are passing through clouds, and if the weather is cold, you would probably turn this on to avoid any icing. These are the engine auto ignitions when you are passing through clouds or when you are passing through icing conditions. It is advisable to turn these on to keep your engines igniting, but you won't leave it on continuously, because this will, in real life, this will burn out your spark plugs or whatever is used to ignite the engine. These are your lights, and this aircraft has something called recognition lights. These are two small lights that are over here at the wingtips. Man, this aircraft is loud. Okay, your propeller de-icing is here, windshield de-icing is here, and they are functional. This is in-up, this is in-up, this is in-up, so you can't do anything with this. And all these buttons at the top and the switches are not operative, so they are in-up at the moment. This is your gear level. This is your strobe light that you would turn on when you are entering to the runway. And this is your tail light or flood light that's lighting your tail around here. Your pitot heat is the heat for your pitot tubes, so that they don't get covered up with ice and your speed reading is accurate. I think I told you about the pitot tubes that are at the sides of the aircraft. Wrong button, I'm sorry. If you go around, you should probably be able to see the pitot tubes somewhere towards the front. I don't know where those are, and these are the pitot tubes right here at the nose. You see those? This is what's measuring your speed when you are up in the air, airspeed I mean. So that will heat them so that they don't get covered up in ice. This is your landing gear light test, which is not working, and that's pretty much it. All these buttons are not working. This is your flaps. These trims are working, and before takeoff you would put the propellers to full RPM, like 100% RPM, and you're ready to pretty much taxi. From this point, when you turn on your taxi light, you're good to go. I think this is going to be it. I just tried to cover the differences between two units. Even if I love this aircraft, it flies beautifully, but this missing functionality is keeping me away from using it quite a bit. Therefore, I tend to use the TBM 930 a lot more, because I feel like that's a more complete aircraft when compared to the King Air 350. But hopefully, let's hope that the coming patch will fix some of these issues with this aircraft so that we can enjoy it a little bit more. Alright guys, I think this is going to be it for the tutorial slash comparison video. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications for the next episode. And before we close the day, I'd like to thank everybody who subscribed to the channel. You guys are awesome. You guys are giving me so much support, and I am just trying to return the favor by just trying to make more videos for your pleasure. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more of the G3000, because I think at this point Other than the flight part of it, like a real flight, we covered pretty much what's in the G3000. Next tutorial I'll try to touch on the custom waypoints which was requested, and how you can enter those custom waypoints to your flight plan. But I haven't tested it, but I don't think it is possible to do it by just using the units. You can do it from the pre-flight menu where you set up your flight plan before loading into the aircraft. Until next time, take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video.